To continue with my personal journey and learning about self-healing, the second big milestone which affected my health, which was completely not a physical trauma, it was actually a very emotional trauma, was summer of 2008 when my dad, who had aggressive Alzheimer's for several years beforehand, was actually placed in a care home because it was just impossible for my mother to look after him. And then, as I frequently visited him in that summer of 2008, I was actually hit by an incredibly vivid sense that I am very close to death. I didn't know at the time if it was his death or a death of his roommate, which were both my dad and his roommate were in a terrible condition. They actually could not talk, they could not walk, they hardly could eat. I witnessed my dad's roommate actually having a kidney failure in front of me, and it's almost as if I was sort of in the presence of such an incredible, heavy but also very powerful energy, which I only in retrospect think it was death, which sort of talked to me. And the only thing I remember from that time, other than being so shocked and devastated by the state of my dad, who was a great man, very fit, very active, very intelligent, loved sort of work until the last minute, even post his retirement. It's almost as if the death told me just one thing, and this is not the way to die. And in retrospect, this was the greatest gift that my dad has left me, which wasn't during his life, it was actually at the time of his passing. Soon after, my dad passed away, I think a couple of weeks after my last visit to him, because then I had to travel and I wasn't actually in Serbia at the time. And what happened then, because of that trauma, emotional trauma, I was very close to my dad, and I just could not believe that the amount of suffering he's been through at the very end of his life and how he passed away. I mean, the only consolation is that he wasn't really aware what was going on because his mind and cognitive functions were all packed in by the time. As a consequence of that emotional trauma, I had a hyperactive thyroid. That was the first time so it was my early 40s, I experienced my thyroid going in a from sort of, let's say, fairly healthy state to a very, very unhealthy state. And that hyperthyroidism then, after several years, moved to hypothyroidism, because thyroid is like a pendulum, it just moved, it's so sensitive, and then it stayed for many years in a hypothyroid state, which is under functioning, and that's when I was later on diagnosed with Hashimoto's.